Both of these hands belong to the same man. One of them is trying to kill him. It is the middle of the night, and he is awake, fully awake, sitting up in his own bed, in the dark, with his left hand closed around his own throat. His right hand is fighting it, prying at the fingers, trying to break the grip before the grip breaks him. There is no one else in the room. There is no intruder, no attacker, nothing to fight but the arm growing out of his own shoulder. So whose hand is that? He survived. His doctors wrote it down, and then they struggled to explain it, because the strangest part of his story was never what his hand did. It was what they found when they finally asked why. Because he was not the only one. Years earlier, and a world away from that dark bedroom, a woman named Karen Byrne was getting dressed for work. Karen had lived most of her life with epilepsy. Not the kind that flickers and passes, the kind that takes over, seizure after seizure, year after year, until the doctors offered her a last resort. There is a thick bundle of nerve fibers deep in the center of your brain that connects its two halves and lets them talk to each other. Cut that bridge, they told her, and the electrical storms that cause the seizures can no longer cross from one side to the other. The seizures would stop. For Karen, they did. The surgery worked. The seizures that had ruled her life went quiet. And then, one ordinary morning, standing in front of the mirror, her right hand began doing up the buttons of her blouse, and her left hand followed close behind it and undid every single one. She was not doing it on purpose. Read that again, because it is the whole mystery in one sentence. She was not deciding to undo those buttons. Her hand was. It did not stop at buttons. Her left hand would reach into the closet and pull out a second outfit, while her right hand was still holding the first. It would rise up on its own and slap her across the face. It would grab at the wheel of her car, snatch a cigarette from her mouth, undo whatever the rest of her body was trying to do. Karen would look down at her own arm and tell it, out loud, to stop. It did not listen. And here is the detail that should unsettle you. It did not listen because it was never taking orders from her in the first place. By now you have probably guessed that whatever happened to the man in that bedroom is happening to Karen too. Hold on to that guess. It is a good one. But notice what it actually is. It is a pattern you are recognizing, not a case you have solved. Two people, one strange shape. The why is still completely missing. And it was about to get stranger because Karen's doctors began to notice something they could not account for at all. Her left hand did not move at random. It reached with purpose. It chose. It seemed somehow to know things that Karen herself swore she did not. How can a hand know something its owner does not? That question sounds impossible. It sounds less like medicine and more like a haunting. But the answer is not a ghost. The answer is geography, and it had already been found years before Karen ever lay on that operating table. Karen, though, could not wait for anyone to explain it. She had a life to get through. So she stopped fighting her hand, and she started outsmarting it. When the left hand needed to do something, she learned to give it something harmless to hold, some small job to keep it busy, so the rest of her could get on with the day. It is a strange kind of peace, learning the moods of a part of your own body, sharing your skin with something that does not always agree with you. But none of that answered the question. Why would one half of a person reach for the exact opposite of what the other half wants? To see that, you have to leave Karen's bedroom and walk into a laboratory in the 1960s, where two scientists were about to split a brain in half on purpose, and watch what climbed out. Their names were Roger Sperry and Michael Gazzaniga. They studied patients who had undergone the same strange surgery Karen would one day have. Doctors had cut the bridge connecting the two halves of the brain, a desperate attempt to stop seizures that nothing else could. On the surface, these patients seemed completely, reassuringly normal. They talked and walked and remembered and joked. Cutting that bridge appeared to have taken nothing away from them at all. Until Sperry and Gazzaniga built an experiment precise enough to catch what it had. Here is the one thing you need to know first. The left half of your brain controls the right side of your body, and the right half controls the left. And in most people, language lives on the left side only, which means the left hemisphere can speak. The right hemisphere, in most people, cannot say a word. Now watch what they did. They flashed a single word to one side of a patient's vision only, the side wired to the right hemisphere, the silent half. Then they asked a simple question. What did you see? The patient answered, nothing. But that was not true, and the scientists knew it. The right hemisphere had seen the word perfectly. It had received the message with no trouble at all. It simply had no voice to answer with. So they handed the patient a pen, kept out of sight, in the left hand, the hand wired to that silent half. And with no one able to say what it had seen, the left hand quietly wrote down the exact word the patient had just insisted they never saw. Sit with that for a second. One person, one brain. Two different answers to the same question, at the very same moment. One of them spoken out loud, and one of them written down by a hand its owner did not feel in control of. That is when this stopped being a medical curiosity and became something much stranger. When Sperry and Gazzaniga cut that bridge, they had not damaged the brain. They had revealed it. Two hemispheres that had spent an entire lifetime working together as one, now able to act separately. Each side with its own information, each with its own reach, sometimes its own intention. Two systems, once connected, now running side by side inside a single skull. And this is a pattern that goes back further than either of them. The condition even has a name. It was first described in 1908 by a neurologist named Kurt Goldstein, who wrote about patients whose hands seemed to act against their owner's will. Some described the feeling as though their own hand belonged to someone else. Goldstein could not explain it. It took Sperry and Gazzaniga decades later to finally show what was hiding underneath. And here the science reaches a limit worth being honest about. The experiment answers how a hand can know what its owner does not. But it cracks open a far bigger question that no one has ever closed. If a single brain can hold two separate wills, then what exactly makes you feel like one person? What stitches the two halves into a single you? Scientists still argue about it. There is no settled answer. Sperry won a Nobel Prize for this work in 1981, and the question sitting at the very center of it is still open today. That question has stayed open for over 40 years. This channel keeps pulling on the ones nobody has closed. Subscribe and stay on that thread. So go back now to that dark bedroom, back to the man, awake, both hands at his own throat. His hand was not possessed. It was not broken. It was not an outside force at all. It was a part of his own brain, acting without its usual connection to the rest of him, reaching for something he had never agreed to. Not a monster from outside, a stranger from inside, wearing his own skin, using his own hand. That is alien hand syndrome. Not a hand with a mind of its own, a mind with a hand of its own, one you never knew was there. And this is the part that should stay with you long after this screen goes dark. You have spent this whole time watching two people who lost control of a single hand, and quietly thinking how strange it is, how far it sits from anything you would ever recognize in yourself. But your hands obey you right now for exactly one reason. The bridge inside your head is still standing. The two halves of you are still talking. The agreement is still holding, quietly, second by second, without you ever noticing it is being made. The strange part was never that Karen's hand stopped obeying her. It is that most of the time, every button, every step, every ordinary morning, yours does. Closed that last question yet. Not the scientists, not this video, but it is the one this channel keeps pulling on. What your mind is doing while you are not watching. Subscribe. There is more it has not told you.